something that we often, as privileged individuals, take for granted is not something that everyone has. And as Nathan said, it is a right to be able to have a home. And it's so important that we remind everyone of that.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role?
Yes, with pleasure. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for this opportunity to have a chat about us and about what we're doing. And I'm Leslie McMeekin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Calgary John Howard Society, and I've been working here for 21 years.
And I'm Nathan. I'm the team lead for Rado House, which is where we're at today, and I have been here for the last 3 years.
What does your organization do?
Well, we're part of the crime prevention conversation for the City of Calgary, and housing is a huge element in that conversation, and that's what we're going to be talking about and focusing on today. I think it's really important that people be stably housed, and that's what we do.
Who does your organization support?
Well, we support individuals that are criminally involved, and they are reintegrating back into the community, and we provide this programs and services that are necessary for them to be able to do that. And that's education, employment, housing, which, as I mentioned, is what we're going to be focusing on primarily today. And we do FASD support. We help with financial literacy, digital literacy, anything that is required to help people move beyond what has caused them to get into trouble with the law in the first place and get them to a place where they can be successfully housed in the community.
Tell us about the space that we're at today.
Well, you're at Rado House. Rado House has been in the community for over 100 years. It's a beautiful 3-story brick building that's quite unique to the City of Calgary. It was a presbytery from the St. Anne's Catholic Diocese, and we purchased it in the early 2000s. It has 100-year-old character and 100-year-old problems. And so right now you can see we're getting the eaves troughs done, which is thanks to the grant that we received from CREB, as well as some crowdfunding that we did earlier. And we're really excited about getting that done.
How do you get funding to support your organization?
Well, we couldn't possibly do the work that we're doing without the support of the generous funders that we have. And our largest funder is the Calgary Homeless Foundation. They've supported this building and a variety of other initiatives that we have with the City of Calgary. The Correctional Services Canada is another large funder of ours, and we have a variety of different grants from the Government of Alberta, and the FCSS with the City of Calgary. The United Way of Calgary and area has supported us for years. We've been around for 75 years, so you can only imagine the number of funders that we've had over the years, and the number of friends that we've made with all of these funders. As I said, we couldn't do the work that we do without them. We've met an incredible number of amazing people over the years, the service clubs, the foundations, CREB. It's just been a really wonderful journey that we've been on, and we're so appreciative of the support that we're provided by the community.
What is the most rewarding part about the work that you do?
Wow, it's hard to answer that question. There are a lot of really rewarding parts of the work that we do, but I would say for me, the most rewarding part has been over the years, the people that we work with. This particular area, for instance, we want to turn into a homework space, and the staff member that is in charge of getting that going is so excited about doing this and has immediately allocated resources to be able to do it. And I love that passion. It wakes me up every morning and gets me excited. And I think it's just great to have people like Nathan who are leading the charge at Rado House, and I really enjoy working with you.
Well, I appreciate that. I think for me, it's seeing youth regain their voice.
Yeah.
So many of our kids, this isn't their first placement. They've been through systems, they've had trauma, And frankly, they're doing the best they can. But when they come to us and we give them opportunity to express themselves, to have choice, to have opportunities to go to school, to try recreation. You know, we have one kid that came in her first day. She said, "I can never do group living." And she's been here a year. She's getting ready next month to move out to our independent living scattered site program. She's been going to school. She's got funding. And that's in part, yes, to her resiliency, but also because we've created space for her to use her voice, to express herself. So seeing these youth take that step is just the biggest win.
What motivates you in your work?
Well, Leslie, I don't know about you, but for me, I think it's, you know, the reality, we're filling gaps that no one else is filling. And we're bringing these kids in and we're supporting them, and they show up every day and they are resilient and they are strong and they are kind. And I think that's what keeps me coming back, is being able to help these kids and knowing that we are positioned in a place in the system where we do some really unique and really beautiful work.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it you know, over the years, I've done a huge variety of things at this agency, and I've always been inspired by the creativity and the innovation and the you know, the can-do attitude that we have. And there's never a no, there's always a yes. And we always find a way to get through whatever adversity we happen to be facing. And at the other end of we end up, you know, really coming up with some great solutions. Like COVID was an excellent example. You know, as an organization, we dug in. We met every single day during COVID, the leadership team, and we, as a group, tackled this problem head on. And it wasn't like tearing out our hair and, you know, oh gosh, we're not going to make it. It was like, how do we take this and turn this into an opportunity in the middle of something that's very adversarial? And I think, and we did a really good job of that. We increased our funding by almost $500,000 during COVID, because of taking advantage of the opportunities that were available to us. And you know, instead of looking at it as like, oh, woe is us, it was like, okay, how do we tackle this head on? And gosh, that inspires you, you know, when you think about it. Hey, this is another good problem to solve. And when you've got great people like Nathan to work with and our clients, I mean, honestly, don't get me started on telling you stories about them, because they inspire me every single day. All of them.
Awesome. What would you like people to know about the importance of housing and shelter?
I think for me, housing's a human right, you know, and it's not just about housing. It's once we have these kids in a program like RADO, then we're looking at how do they complete goals? How do we address things that have happened to them? How do we support them with that next right step? And so housing's that first thing, and then everything else comes. And that's what the team is doing here day in and day out, from occupational therapy and counseling to goal setting to, you know, we took a group of kids last winter to zoo lights. None of those kids had been to the Calgary Zoo. And it's just stuff like that you realize it's not just about housing, it's about all these other things that we get to do and how we can support.
Yeah. It really makes a big difference in their lives. And you have to start with a roof over your head. That's what Housing First is all about. And we really believe that it's the starting place for all the good things that can follow. And so housing is about stability. It's about crime prevention. It's about reintegration. It's about tackling mental health and addictions. It helps to provide a platform for all of those other really good things to follow. And so it's just imperative. We have 4 residential facilities plus one affordable housing building. So really 5. But we have 4 that are staffed 24/7. And we believe that it's integral to the success of individuals reintegrating back into the community, to have a house over their head. Plus our scattered site beds as well, for adults and youth throughout the city of Calgary. We've made a huge investment in housing, and it's very intentional. It works.
What do you think people can do to ensure there's appropriate housing and shelter in our community?
Well, I think the first step is educating yourself, right? What's happening in Calgary? You know, for us, like, we get updates weekly on kids that need housing. There's wait lists for places like RADO. There's wait lists for really every housing program. And so I think the first step is education, and then secondly is advocacy. And once you have that education, you're able to actually step out and speak and be advocates for people that need housing.
Yes, and the community needs to understand that affordable housing is part of the community. It's not an add-on. It's important that we find ways of embracing any affordable housing opportunity that comes into your community. And that means sometimes addressing some uncomfortable feelings that people may have about having that building or that organization in the community. NIMBYism is alive and well, unfortunately, in Calgary, but we are, with the awareness and the education that Nathan was talking about, we really feel that we can tackle that. And there's a lot of great housing organizations in the city of Calgary that are working toward the same end. And we work together, we collaborate effectively in order to ensure that we can provide affordable housing opportunities for everyone across the city of Calgary. That's the only way that we're not in this alone. Rado House is part of the equation. Calgary John Howard Society is part of the equation. And as a collective, all of the housing organizations in the city of Calgary work toward making sure that everyone has a roof over their head. And so we need to continue that advocacy work so that happens.
Why do you think Day of Shelter is important?
I think for the work that we do and for our youth, we don't talk about homelessness often enough. And so this day serves as a reminder both to the youth that we work with, but also to us as practitioners, that the work we do is important, that housing is a right and people deserve this. And it is something where we look at community education and these pieces, like just having a day that recognizes this is so valuable.
Yeah. I mean, without a roof or a place to call home and having an opportunity to really discuss that openly, we underestimate the value of that. And we need to really have that on the radar screen so that people know that something that we often, as privileged individuals, take for granted is not something that everyone has. And as Nathan said, it is a right to be able to have a home. And it's so important that we remind everyone of that. And having a Day of Shelter to talk about that, I think it just draws it right to the forefront and makes it on the radar screen. So I'm really glad that we get a chance to have these kinds of conversations.
Thanks, Leslie and Nathan.
Thank you.